So have you ever been in a car and hear a song coming through your speakers and instantly remember all the words? Do memories of another time or place, and usually this is the case, events flood your brain? That happens to me all the time. If I'm on my way to work or even walking down the street, a song hits my ears and bam, I'm somewhere else. Remembering the good times or the bad times. I've even had it happen to me when I've overheard music from another source, like in a grocery store. Actually, that seems to happen a lot in grocery stores. But that's what this channel is about. My musical memories. Things that flood my head when hearing that specific song. First time I heard this song was at a funeral, and so far I haven't heard it since. But the reason why this story is taking place is that I honestly don't think I can ever hear this song again without thinking of my wife's mom. When I think of my mother-in-law, I'm reminded of her gorgeous house. She had such large windows and a really cool looking kitchen. When I was there, that's where she usually was. I know there was a beautiful view of a lake, but to be quite honest, it doesn't enter my mind as I'm kind of spellbound by the house and the history that lived there. The driveway was some kind of rock, not gravel, but kind of small like it. My wife has told me on several occasions that her mother actually crushed the rocks by herself, by hand. I'm still stunned to this day by her strength of will and her stubbornness. I could never do that. But it really looked amazing. She, like her wonderful daughter, always had animals about. Baby was the dog. I honestly don't know what kind of dog she was, but I don't want to look stupid by asking my wife. I can hear her now, that she had told me 100 times. But anyway, Baby was something else. I mean, one time when we brought the kids over there for Christmas, Baby growled like crazy at me and my son, but not my daughter. I couldn't explain it. And Michael, being the curious young man that he was, wanted to touch and pet the dog. She growled like he was taking her last piece of bacon, but she didn't nip at him, and I was worried about that, so that was good. But that Christmas was special for me. Lynn and I and the kids were all there for Christmas. We played Guitar Hero and had lots of fun. Occasionally I would hear Ma saying, yep, she really wanted to be called by Ma by everyone. I couldn't just do it in the beginning. I just couldn't. I had my own mother issues back then, and I didn't want to corrupt her mother's name. Again, in my own head. I never said anything out loud. I didn't want to offend anybody. But that Christmas was so special. Because here we are playing Rock Band, and occasionally I could hear Ma singing to Cheap Trick in the background, or Boston. It was cute and adorable. But Ma was different. Ma was great. She would always tell you exactly what she thought. If she didn't want to eat something, she'd say, get that shit out of here. And if she thought someone was being too stupid, she'd say, stop being a pussy. It was fun in a kind of strange, endearing kind of way. She also had a cat, Candy. According to my wife, she could be a real sweet cat. I didn't get to see any of that, though. All I know is that she would growl and hiss when I was around. And and her claws, they were like razors. She was not afraid to use them either. My wife would come home with some scratches on her, some marks on her, and be like, what happened? Did the cat attack you? And she's like, no, she was just crawling on me to sleep. And I'm like, oh, well, they were that sharp. She didn't really start to relax until she got older, when she started to enjoy and subsequently demand marijuana. That seemed to chill her out. I was always hearing that Lynn's mom had a garden. Apparently she was always working on it. I never believed it back in the early days. I mean, she was pretty old when I first met her. And for some reason, that idea just didn't gel in my head. Until my wife informed me that we were going to Ma's place, we were going to go help her with a garden. Not being a gardener, I was sure sore the next day. But I believe that working in her garden, day after day, really helped Ma relax and gave her purpose. I believe she found her peace in her garden. She raised 4 kids, all who have gone on to live happy lives, and that made her so proud. She would have liked if they had called a little bit more. But I would constantly hear about how one son was in Toronto working in a big job, or another one was singing in a country festival. And she was always very, very proud. Or how another one was home more often, just so we could fix her truck again. And her daughter, my wife, she would tell anybody who listened that she draws naked ladies. She was always, she was so happy about it. I don't know if this is fact, but living in a small community for most of her life must have narrowed down her food choices. Not that she didn't have access to all kinds of food, but it just seemed to me that the entire time I knew her, she was only interested in eating sausages, the breakfast kind, bologna, and potatoes. And fries from the chip stand. As soon as they opened in the spring, she would be there ordering or, sending us to get her fried goodness. After a time, I would even buy wholesale cases of breakfast sausages from my work. It had to have 100+ sausages in there. Quite honestly, it would only last her a couple of weeks, maybe 4 to 6 weeks. I still remember her belting out, "I like to move it, because that was her jam. And she wanted to turn it up loud. I know she loved most of the music that I would have my wife play for her. It didn't matter what she was doing. When she heard her song, Ma would stop to dance around like a woman possessed. She was a very special lady, playfully telling my wife that if she didn't want me, she would be happy to take me off her hands. Well, until Lynn's niece met a nice guy a few years later, who helped me escape from her flirty ways. As time went on, her health deteriorated. She was forced to give up her country life for a home in the city, a place she always kind of hated. But her dog and her angry cat helped keep her sane. That and swearing at the people cutting across her driveway. We were able to visit her more often, and I know that made her happy. Soon she discovered Oak Island. Somehow she formed a real attachment to that reality TV show. Lynn would often tell me how her mother's phone call had to be cut off short because her shows were on. She passed away on May 11th, 2021. Everyone was there and got to say their own personal goodbyes. I couldn't say much. I didn't have the history that her children did, obviously. All I could do was hear this song playing from her bedroom. It was one of the last ones to go in. I told her that she showed me what it was like to be around a mom, to really be loved and accepted for the kooky person that I was. She was the first person to really do that. And I got to thank her for allowing me to share in Lynn's life. She smiled weakly. She passed away shortly afterwards, surrounded by the love and sadness that comes when a family loses someone who meant so much. She is missed every day, but when we get sad, thinking of her, we're reminded of her in heaven, calling us a bunch of pussies. I hope you enjoyed this story that fell out of my head. If a song reminds you of a loved one, please let me know in the comments below. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time.